So what we want to do again with the experiences and what these bring are centering points so that one navigates through life. All of life is an experience. It's another experience at hand. Nothing wrong with the experiences, but let's find a centering. Okay? Let's find a centering, that's all. So don't be afraid of life. One doesn't need to recede from life. Let's embrace life. Because when one enters the absolute, we find out it is life. Okay? It is life.
You can move out of stuckness with this sense of seva, engaging in life.
Engaging in life. Yes, there's nothing wrong with engaging life. But let's engage life from a different viewpoint than me and my and what it's going to give me. Okay? See it as the flow of life. And life, all energy is interconnected. It's not separate. So let's start from the transient world. It's interconnected. Okay? As long as you're in duality and dual mindset, it's interconnected. When you get to realization, then one is only cognizant of that one divine essence. Rather than the interconnectedness, there's simply one, without division. Okay? So as long as you're in dual mind, there's interconnectedness. When one gets beyond that, then there's only see one. There's nothing to be interconnected because it's...
So saying that we're all co-creators with God, as the New Age says, that separates everything.
That keeps everything separate.
Yes.
Right. It keeps that identity of me-ness intact.
That's right.
It keeps that me story going. Aren't I special? I'm a co-creator with God.
Yes. Yes. It's easy to buy into that.
This is so different than the path of the mystic. The mystic is the one that defaces ego. It goes, it dissolves, and then one finds only there is that.
So we are God.
And the ego is never God.
Well, we're all source.
Source is at the heart of everything, but ego is the mask.
Yeah.
The mask is not God. The mask is whatever its identifications are.
It's beyond. It's back
It's
from
before masks ever arose. And the path is taking off the mask to see that the mask was just that. It was a covering. It was not the inner reality.
So are there separate spirits?
No,
Souls?
no,
No.
no. It's like if you have a light bulb,
I love
and
that
if I
analogy.
poke the shade full of holes,
I love that analogy.
you'll see many holes, many rays of light, and each ray of light, while it's in dual mind, thinks it's separate from the other rays. But if you follow it back, what do you find? There's
One
only
light.
one source. Only one light. Okay?
That's a
So
wonderful
ego is the
analogy.
mask
Go back to that.
that makes it appear as a separate light. It's the mask of separation. But if one finally goes back beyond that mask, what is found?
One.
Singular.
So,
Judgment disappears. The judgment, the negative judgment that we see in a dual
Judgment,
world.
period.
Yeah.
If you get rid of judgment, you go back to self.
Mm.
You go back to source.
People live a whole life fearing judgment from God.
It's also, fear, judgment of God, fear of, they've made God into something separate, persona, something I cannot reach, something beyond. But it's like the Bible says, and this is what's cognized in that moment when everything falls away, and it's everything in a split second. It's just assumed, it's just, you can't even explain how it happens. It's so rapid that no matter where you go, there I am, in the deepest hell and the highest heavens. You couldn't have gotten away from it. And this is known immediately that without this there would be no life. If you have life, you cannot be separate from God, because God is that life. That God
That's
essence
where
is
so
life.
much of the Bible, it talks about a separate God.
Because-
Punishing God, etc., and it's not.
wrathful.
That's where man has manipulated the Bible.
They very much manipulated the Bible, yes. Yes. Because unfortunately it was written by many that had an agenda that manipulated what went in there. And it was written by some that maybe were cognizing something. They were in the midst of the journey and they were explaining what they were seeing, you know. And so it gets sometimes tainted with ego, with this feeling of separation.
And religion puts like a fear of God in,
It
you know.
does
You're
for
being
many.
judged. You're being judged, and you will
And
burn
there
in hell,
is,
and you'll
right,
do all
there
these.
is no, and when Christ was here, he did not speak of judgment. But even his words have become so manipulated, they have lost the message that he was trying to say, look, there is nothing to fear. There is nothing to fear. And watch, here he went, and he surrendered. And he surrendered in the midst of the fear he had. And I've used this illustration so many times. In the Garden of Gethsemane, he was sweating blood. This is fear. This is a lot of fear. When you're sweating blood, it's physically possible to sweat blood. This is an extreme amount of terror. But even at that, not my will, let yours be done. And he surrendered and showed there is no death. There is no death. Okay.
Well, there's documentation too that Judas was not the traitor. He was the Judas Thomas, the twin. He was the most accurate, had the most accurate writings of how Jesus healed in his life. And in control of the Bible, they didn't want that information out there. So by classifying him as a traitor, they could get rid of all of his information.
Well, there's been a lot of things that have been manipulated along the way with biblical things. But there's enough there to understand what the basic message was. And what the basic message was is the same message that sages have been giving throughout history in all of the religious persuasions. And so we come back to that knowledge. And it's very unfortunate when you have religions spring up that have misunderstood the message and have turned it into a way to manipulate mankind and to keep them fear-based. When all of the religion and the pointings are to get one out of this fear and into understanding what is there and to get people out of suffering. But they continue to put suffering in place. And you suffer now and you will continue to suffer unless you do it this way. You know.
Control.
Control. Exactly. So we want to break the bonds of control. We want to break through those bonds of control and find out that that divine essence, that spark of pure life, is within all mankind equally, no matter what is seen on the surface. In the depths of that, and this is what is spoken to by Guru, is that truth which resonates in the heart of truth and starts to enliven that, to break through the coverings. Okay? So that's it, in a nutshell. Basically, in the most simplistic way, this is how this works. What is here, what I am, you are. What I am, you are. There is no difference. This was what Christ was saying too. What I have done, you can do. I go to the Father that sent me. What I have done, you can do, and more so. Okay? This is not an exclusionary club. He did not come and say, worship me. He always turned towards back to the Father. Look, this is what's there. This is what's there, equally.